Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. Today we're going to be looking at the Arceus Duraludon deck list. It's a very powerful archetype coming out from this set, pairing one of the best new cards, Arceus V-STAR, with pretty much an old favourite in Duraludon. Duraludon was performing pretty well in the Fusion Strike meta, and it had a really wacky engine, using things like Zacian and Zamazenta, and hoping to just wall out opponents. Now we become more of a tempo-based deck, but still have the bulk of Duraludon to fall back on, making it pretty much well-rounded in an archetype in itself, whilst also being a headache for a ton of archetypes just naturally via the Skyscraper ability from Duraludon. This is kind of our main attacker alongside Arceus, which is usually our early game attacker, but G-Max Pulverization is just a vanilla 220 damage, very good at knocking out V Pokemon, and 2-hit KOing V Maxes very easily as well, and it also goes through all effects, which means we only need to play these two attackers, we don't have to worry about annoying walling Pokemon, we get through those, which is really nice. The Skyscraper ability means that we don't take damage from Pokemon that have special energy attached. There's a lot of special energy in the format right now. Mew is obviously very focused on those Fusion Strike energies as well as Double Turbo. A lot of Arceus players will be using Double Turbo energy as well. And there's also Single Strike deck lists, which will obviously play a ton of Single Strike energy. Although the Single Strike matchups, they will usually have Wall Breaking via Urshifu or part of the Peak via Gengar, so it's not a be-all and end-all, but it is an annoying ability that your opponent has to constantly be playing around, which is very nice here. That's the Pokemon we're going to try and power up and use in the sort of mid to late game, while our early game is going to focus on the Arceuses. First of all, let's look at the V, because this list is playing a 4-2 line of Pokemon, trying really to get Arceus V in the active position going first, on our first turn. So if we're the player going second, we can use Trinity Charge. It allows us to search our deck for 3 basic energy, attach them to your Pokemon V in any way that you like, then shuffle your deck. We're only V and V Maxes here, so Trinity Charge is a great way to accelerate energy early on in the game to have multiple threats developed. It's got a nice 220 hit points as well, so fairly chunky on its own end, and it does have a Power Edge attack for 130, which we rarely are going to use, because on turn 2 we're looking to get all the way up into our V-Star, where we now have 280 hit points, which is very good for a 2-prize Pokemon, and we have this Trinity Nova attack, which is continuing the trend of Trinity Charge, allowing us to get 3 basic energy and attach them to our V in any way that we like, but this time we're dealing a base of 200 damage. Usually, because of this 3 colorless attack cost, this will go down to 180 thanks to Double Turbo energy, but this is already very good for dealing with a number of 2-prize Pokemon, like Mew for example, sometimes Crobat, or you can use this just to set up numbers on maybe opposing Arceus or opposing V Maxes to set up that 2-shot very comfortably, which I think is really nice. The Starbirth ability does a lot for this deck. Not only does it help us guarantee the Trinity Nova turn 2 by helping us scout the Double Turbo itself, and maybe even some like Switch cards if required or anything else, but it can do a whole lot here, including enable the Single Strike Mustard in the list, allowing you to search your deck for a Single Strike Pokemon and put it onto your bench. And notice it doesn't say basic Pokemon, so we can immediately cheat out a VMAX. That's why we're playing a 2-3 line of the Duraludon. It seems very out of place here, but in a lot of instances, we don't want our opponent to have the chance to deal with our Duraludon. Yes, it's chunky, it has 250 hit points effectively with the Hardcoat ability, but it's much easier to jump straight into Mustard and then have the VMAX online straight away. This does 2 things really. It gives your opponent less easy Gust targets early on, but it means we also get to have a 4-2 split of basics, which hopefully means we lead out that Arceus that little bit more often for the Trinity Charge, so a really nice combination here. Otherwise, the Starbirth can really help piece together some other things, like getting boss's orders when you need to make the most out of your Trinity Nova. Targeting down Mew Vs is a great thing to do, especially in that matchup, or just making sure you're dealing with threats and taking them out of play. Getting supporters for you because we don't have much else of a draw engine outside of the Starbirth. The good news is that once you've done Trinity Nova and Starbirth, you've naturally thinned the deck of a lot of your energy cards. So in theory, you should just be drawing a good amount of supporters throughout the game just naturally, even though we don't draw a lot of cards inherently. That's also why you see a couple copies of Pokégear here. Riley's winning list played a full 4 counts, but I am actually choosing to include 2 Hyper Potions in the list. From our testing, Hyper Potion has been a very strong card, very useful against Mew, because on turns where they are only using special energy, the Hyper Potion can remove whatever damage you get dealt by the Max Miracle from the Mew, when they're trying to wall break, right? They just hit 130 or around that number. So trying to use Hyper Potion can sometimes buy back turns with Duraludon, but also it's very good in the mirror match. And I think it's actually very important to think about the mirror these days, because you can heal damage from your Duraludon when you're hitting into each other with Pulverization. Pulverization over 2 turns does 440. So with a Big Charm on you, you go up to 360, then you heal 120, so you would have 20 remaining hit points after the Hyper Potion. And it's very easy to combine Hyper Potion with the excess double turbo energies that linger in your deck, because you're naturally powering up your Duraludons and Arceus generally. It means you have the license to turn attach double turbo, then Hyper Potion, and still have the requisite energy to use Pulverization, which is a really nice combo here, I think. Other than that, we're very similar to Riley's list. I initially was testing out a lot of Crystal Cave. Obviously the guaranteed heals of 30 can be useful here and there, but Collapsed Stadium is impressing me, honestly. It can randomly be an annoyance for a number of archetypes, actually. Anything using the Inteleon engine, it's very annoying for the likes of Suicune. Very annoying for Mew players, where you're naturally forcing things off the board. If you can force things like Oricorio off the board, that can make Trinity Nova more dangerous at knocking out Mews, especially with gusting plays potentially. And just limiting a Genesect draw even a little bit can be very helpful, especially in the early turns. You naturally want to have a high count of Stadium to counter Path to the Peak that is going to be played in some Gengar variants. So I think 3 is a sweet spot right now, because ultimately I'm expecting a good amount of Mirror, and I want to have Hyperpot and just the 3rd copy of Collapsed rather than the full 4, so I have less dead cards and more useful cards in that scenario. So yeah, overall, pretty simple deck, trying to lean into big old Starbirth and have a chonker to follow up with. It's usually just a very difficult prize map for the opponent. We won't be benching too many things in excess here. We really are just trying to make the wall, make him last for a number of turns, and just churn through the opponent. I can definitely see why Hyper Potion was omitted from Riley's list early on, but are now, especially with mirror matches, and also helpful against like Weezing and whatnot, these decks that try and prod damage and set up Sableye, I definitely think a couple Hyper Potion makes sense. So let's jump into the ladder and see how things goes, not before talking about the lovely Potown store. Make sure you go ahead and check these guys out. You can get all your code needs for PTCGO and even PTCG Live going ahead, so make sure you use code Omnipoke for 5% off. Let's jump into our first game, and we are going to be leading the charge here, as our opponent has failed to win the coin flip. Going first is obviously very good. I did mention Trinity Charge from Arceus a few times here, as it looks like we might be going into a Durant matchup. But I do think you still will ideally go first with the deck, because the acceleration you gain is very, very powerful. I think there's an argument to go second against Mew, just so it gives you supporter outs to not get donked straight away. But that's something I'm still working out. So for now, we are up against Durant. This is going to be a matchup where I really don't want to overplay anything. So I think I just attach active and pass here. Pretty much. I do like Collapsed, but I think I'll do it once he's actually filled his board of Pokemon. I obviously don't want additional bench Pokemon just yet. They will probably Yell Horn me at some point, but maybe not so early on. So let's just pass. Durant actually won a 300-player event yesterday, so it's a little bit on the radar right now. I don't dislike this Marnie too much. Losing a double turbo is a little bit of a shame, but as long as we find our V-Star, I can always search it back. So, not too big of a deal here. We do hit Ultra Ball, so I can go V-Star hunting now. It's one of those things where I'd like to stay as the V, because you can just keep using Power Reg and it essentially wastes their first Yell Horn, but we'll see how things go. We lose an energy and a switch out, which is quite a shame, but hey-ho. Let's go ahead and make our V-Star. We don't need these cards. We basically don't need many cards at all, to be honest with you, but we certainly need double turbo here. I think I just grab double turbo and I have supporter. Maybe it's double turbo. They actually don't use energy disruption that much. They do try and do Gust Disruption more often than not. Let's quickly Starbirth. Aurora's grabbing Double Turbo. I think ultimately I have push potential with the Marnie. It's weird to take another Arceus, but I could just go Arceus and actually power up the Arceus a little bit with more energies. It gives him Gust plays, but I don't think it's a big deal. Right, they're done. Okay, fine. I think if you play slowly with this matchup and don't overcommit anything, you basically always win, because you always have valid attackers. Things that can go wrong, really, is just like, if he's Gala Mining and combining that with Yellhorn and you don't have the switch out in hand, sometimes it gets awkward. The deck plays 3 switch outs, 3 stadiums to at least bounce Galar Mine. So you can just pay retreat with double turbos, and I think if you just bounce between 2 Arceus, you're going to be fine. That would be my game plan in the matchup. Sorry for taking so long thinking about it, but I think we're chilling there. They had a 2-card hand. They were probably conceding because they also just had nothing, realistically, and I could just pressurize, hit them every turn. And that's what Arceus does, keeps things honest. We are going second here. We do have Arceus V. I have the attachment, but it's not a double turbo just yet, so I could try and risk it all for a Marnie play and just Ultra Ball out another Pokemon here. We'll see what matchup we're up against to determine how important it is to Trinity Charge. By the way, there certainly are matchups where you only aim to get one Duraludon down, and you still just use the bulk of double Arceus. Matchups where potentially the ability isn't all that helpful for you. Or you just feel safer getting double Arceus V developed, knowing that you guarantee a V star during the game at some point with that regard. Like against Mew, for example, if you just put one Arceus down and try and go double Duraludon, if they knock out the Arceus, you never get to Starbirth, and then sometimes you just brick and lose. So, looks are up against the Cincino variant. I'm not really worried about any pressure turn 2 from the opponents, outside of potential like Zapdos plays, so I don't think I need to overplay anything here. I think I can just attach Pass and be pretty happy, honestly. Holding Ultra Ball is just crazy, right? Let's just pass. I'll get more information about my opponent's deck now. I can't think of many things that play Cincino that can knock me out straight away. It's another Durant, okay. People are playing the list that won yesterday, I guess. Which is fine. I really think Durant probably isn't winning many other tournaments. I would be very surprised if it did. I think it probably caught people off guard here and there. Usually I think you should be fine to win the matchup. The Marnie's done work here. They're only devouring 1 card. They devour the card that I'd love to have drawn for turn. It'd be like that sometimes. I think I'm just going to Trinity Charge to my active. I just need to Trinity Charge 1, right? They've already put down 3 Mincinos, which means their maximum devour is only 3 cards. Gonna see a Bruno for 4 here. They are playing impatiently. Devouring a card. Love to see it. I'll take a knockout. And lose 2 cards off the top. Basically, no cards are relevant apart from, like, I want to have a V-Star in hand, and I'm worried about switch-outs. That's basically about it. So that I have answers to the Yellhorns. There's essentially nothing else that disrupts us. So we're going to see evolve into Cincino. Now they have a full value Bruno, shuffling to get the 8 cards. I think a lot of people were surprised to see Durant win a 300-player event. I still don't think the deck is that strong. I wouldn't freak out about it. I think it's still going to be a rogue tier deck. Our opponent just called for families. Seems good. They have no Durant they want to get into play. Yikes. Okay. Losing Double Turbo and Switch are probably some of the worst cards we could lose. No Pokemon discarded yet, though. Sometimes, like, basic Pokemon is also a worry, because it then opens up Echoing Horn, right? So, just a small thing there. The good news is they can Peonia and start looking for some of those Durants that they clearly have prized. I imagine they've prized 2, if their call for family failed them. Decided to Peonia before any make-dos, which is interesting. See their selection. So far they are 2 double turbos down. Can happily get rid of their Manaphy, that's useless. There's the Durant, so they got them both out of the prizes, which is good for them. There's the Yellhorn, so that's the thing that we have to be slightly concerned about. We do draw Rope. Doesn't make much sense when I don't have a powered up Arceus. So I may just attach bench attached to Arceus and then flip the coin. Okay. Pretty unfortunate that from our hand I don't have any supporter that can help me out here, or V-Star or Ultra Ball, but it is what it is. We're going to see a Marnie now. Marnie out of Rope. Not that I'm ready to Rope next turn anyway, but... Now we hit V-Star, so this can get me out of confusion, which is nice. They actually flip heads on there, so they can get the full value devour. Get rid of some cards that really don't matter too much. Let's get our evolution. How much do I like collapsing him? It basically just helps him. Because right now he's capped at 3 Durants. If I collapse and he replaces the stadium, that lets him get carrier value to get the full 4. So I think I'm just meant to Trinity Nova here. And we'll just pull 2 energies out. We're a healthy 32 cards with 3 attacks remaining to win this game. Basically, we never lose. Realistically. They can horn out Duraludon now, which is a small concern. I have my Starbirth open to allow me to get Switch Rope. And I can just Trinity Nova onto the Duraludon straight away. They actually use their Net and Rescue Carrier, so they are getting the full value of the Ant here. There's their Shovel. Durant gameplay really is this simple. Just don't overplay. Many people may not remember the old Devour Durant gameplay. There was once a time when Durant truly was a menace in the format. They play a level ball for no reason, when they could just make do it away. Don't really know what they can dig for outside of Yellhorn here. It's the only card remaining in their deck that would hurt us. Potentially Boss Echoing is the other card that would hurt us. But no, they're just devouring. We will announce an attack. We have Starbirth open, which basically clears us for landing to win next turn. Essentially, unless he gets, like, Echoing Horn, Boss, and Galamine, and I don't have Switch or Rope. So he has to discard both Switch and Rope with his next Devour here for me to be in trouble. Pretty low odds when I have a 20-card deck and he's milling 4. So there's the Echoing Horn play. It's the play that we're always making. It's only a problem if our prizes wreck us here. There's an argument for me to have Starbirthed last turn, because I'm not scared of him Marnieing me. But they, regardless, don't have the energy, so... And that's it. That's how you beat a Durant. Basically, just keep clicking attack, and you don't ever lose. As long as you keep track of which cards are worrisome. Like, realistically, I should have V-Star powered the previous turn, because there is that random chance that sometimes that actually does cheese and beat me. But it was very low odds. 20 cards in deck, they had to hit the exact 2 of the top 4 cards. Just don't panic, just chill. Honestly. That's pretty much the idea. Alright, we're going first and we have a really nice hand. We have double Arc. We have Quick Ball and Ultra Ball and V-Star. This is like everything you want. Looks like we're in a mirror match. Going first in mirror is obviously very good. We get the first damage in, but also we play 2 Hyper Pots. So in theory, we're very favored in mirror. Let's do this. Okay. So they certainly won't be pressurizing us early game. I think I double turbo to play around Marnie. We definitely want to make double Duraludon in this matchup. So I think I quick ball away Arceus. I'm holding the Switch, so if he does boss plays, that's fine by me. We will scout to see if our Mustard is here, because that could be our turn 2 play. It is not in the deck, but we do have both Gatling Slugs here, so that's okay. We have 1 Hyper Potion prized, but sometimes 1 is enough to win this mirror. We have Rope prized. We have both our Big Charms, which is what enables the Hyper Pot to be as good as it is. We have all 3 extra double turbos. Seems good to me. It seems like a good pass from here. Could play the Collapse, but I think it's a good card to have for the Ultra Ball. So yeah, happy days. Let's see if they get to Trinity Charge themselves or not. Does he quick ball from them? They're following suit. They're getting rid of an Arceus V. Similar game plan by the looks of things. They do play the Rope on us early. Play Crushings. Hello, that's the mirror tech you never want to see. Let's see a research. They play Energy Recycler. What is going on here? They made space for Recycler and Hammers. So what have they cut? Probably some amount of Pokégear. That's the spaces I've made. I wonder what else. Hammer is somewhat of a good mirror card as well, because it gets rid of fighting energy, and we have a limited number of those, so I have to be a little bit worried about that. Okay. So we're obviously playing Switch, obviously evolving, obviously attaching the metal. I don't really need to V-Star power anything, so I can just hold, right? Hold and see what happens. Makes me better against Marnie. There's nothing he can do that particularly scares me. They're gonna VMAX. We get the Ultra Ball, so they can V-Star here as well if they wish. They're going to Starbirth. I wonder if they're going for Hammers here. Or if they just want a second Duraludon to start attaching to. They're going to go for a Boss's Orders play. Okay. Try and get some early chip on the Duraludon before I can ability out of it. Makes sense. Didn't really want to get rid of energy off the top here with this Ultra Ball, but I might have to. Let's Starbirth. Grabbing Research. Grabbing Duraludon V. Attaching Fighting to the second V. Ultra Balling for VMAX. Ripping Research. Yep. Not necessarily the most helpful hand. We also drew a basic energy, which isn't great. So I think I just keep the last basic fighting in the deck, honestly. I don't want to get scammed by Hammers. There's Hyper Potion. as we see Big Charm from the opponents and a Marnie. So basically both of our missions will be deck thinning at this point as they make their next VMAX. Deck thin all the Pokemon that don't matter, get as much damage in as possible. Pretty much the agenda here. We can thin some additional Arceus before going VMAX research here. Ah, Hyper Pot. Very nice. Let's start hitting. We're ahead in the hit race, boys. We've hit him first. Busted. Oh, he plays Hypers too? He has space for Crushing and Hyper. And Recycler. He now cannot attack with this unless he hits the Hyper Potion. Does he insta-concede when he realizes that he can't attack me this turn? No, he's going to try and cheese me with hammers. Okay. Yeah, I can see the pulverization. Okay. We'll boss now because I don't want to get Marnied out of it, you know, like later. It should mean I no longer need boss for the remainder of the game as well, so I can start balling these away. Crystal Cave. They are playing an unexpected list. Arceus is never coming into play. It's just going to the bottom of his deck. Do you have to worry about potentially 2 more Crushing Hammers, which could ruin our day? Here we go. Oof. Happy to see it, for sure. I'm going to be very sad if we lose this game to a Crushing Hammer heads from him. These essentially have no impact anymore as well. Let's hit and hope to not get cheesed by Hammer. It's a great feeling. We have been fortunate with the hammers, to be fair. Oh, they do play Hyper Potions. They have to, right? Oh. Oh no. Oh no, I didn't draw any draw. I have to Hyperpop pass? Oh, feels bad. He could deck himself though. How many Marnies has he played? He's played 2 Marnies. He's drawing his 6th card. Yeah, it's Hyper Potion pass GG, right? So they're even more mirror teched than me. They just had bad coin flips. But hey, Hyper Potion certainly is good for that mirror match. Let's try and get one more game in. But yeah, Crushing Hammer is a good answer to this deck. Especially if the list continues to just play 3 fighting. I feel like the Collapsed Stadium count could also be interchangeable with like 1 training court to give you essentially a 4th fighting energy. Which I think could also be quite good. Just to help out with prizing and hammers and the first one getting knocked out and you've had to attach a fighting to Arceus, you know. Things happen when you only play 3 fist energy. So going to an extra one would be pretty good. But so far we're just doing the stuff, you know. We've gone first a lot. That's really nice. You do like to see it. Although, like I said, against Mew, it may be optimal to go second. I need to test it more. But I feel like having the extra option to supporter means you get donked less, so... Oh no, we're up against Stonejourner. Hate to see it. Could be a rough matchup for us. You got the boost shakes, the face guards. They are also a healing deck. There's the Stony Man. I guess Collapse isn't doing much. We do have Mustard. Okay. We have Prize the Fighting Energy. Do we have... We have our Choice Belt. We have both Hyper Pots. Alright. Let's see what the old boot has to say. Just finishing that thought on the training court, it may be... The only reason you may not want to play training court is it helps Mew. Like, it's really nice to bounce courts against a Mew, so playing, like, one court of your own doesn't really work. I don't know, though. I can't really see the deck playing any more energy than it already does. We're already at 13 copies of energy. what am I talking about? 14 copies of energy. We're at 734. Our opponent just passes. Let's just attack him, I guess. Don't really want to Starbirth when I don't have to. The belt would only get us to 210, so... Let's see him start ice popping and yell toweling all this off. Or not. What is happening here, Chef Brock? What have you done? Really trying to get those dubs by doing nothing. And even with the do nothing deck, he's actually doing nothing. Okay. Seems legit. Look at that Stonjourner. The big boot. Oh, Chef Brock, why are you doing this? Well, okay, fine. I think the matchup isn't too bad for us. They have a lot of healing, but you have constant attacking pressure. And the 200 damage isn't too big of a deal. You also stop stone fighting energy from being a valid attachment for them, for the Duraludon. So anyway, that is the list. Let me know what you guys think about Collapsed Stadium, because I know it was contentious. Our initial lists were definitely on Caves. Hyper Potion seems really good. I think you just make the space for it, even though it's cringy to cut gears because the deck doesn't draw that well. But I do think an element of gear is still really important. Make sure you hit bosses on certain turns. Because you thin your deck of basically all your basic energy, they are very live, like in the mid to late game, so they get better throughout the game. The Mustard didn't come off today, but it's certainly a card that is nice to work towards with the Starbirth. Let me know how it goes for you guys. Most of my testing was actually without Mustard, so I'm pretty used to just putting down like Duraludon Vs, sometimes big charming them up, makes them effectively 280 hit point 2 prizes, which is hard to deal with anyway, so definitely seems to be a threat in the metagame. Not very many easy ways to just like hard counter this deck either. I think potentially just because it's so limited at its damage cap, like it just is set at that 220 mark, 250 on the highest end if you Choice Belt. I think there could be some other decks that could do some bouncing shenanigans that could also be painful for this deck. So we'll see how that develops in the metagame. But in general, this just seems like a pain to deal with for a ton of stuff. So let me know what you guys think. I'll hear it all down below, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.